Welcome to Movie Talks, episode 6. Thank you, and welcome back, everybody.
Woo.
Boy, do we have a big episode for you. And we've got our co-host, Lawson. Say good day.
You said host, you didn't say horse. Congratulations.
Yes. Oh, I did almost mess it up
only
though.
took only took 6 episodes.
Yeah.
Hello everyone. This is Lawson.
I'll probably mess something else up anyway. But anyway, we have an invitation for you guys. It doesn't work that joke.
That's not even close.
No, see, I got the intro, but I messed up the joke. So you win some, you lose some. You miss every shot you don't take. But anyway, boy, do we have a show for you. We're on a roll. We have The Invitation, which is a horror thriller. We also have Fullmetal Alchemist. Depending on where you're actually reading your information, it's either called Fullmetal Alchemist Final Transmutation or Fullmetal Alchemist The Final Alchemy. Alchemist.
Alchemy. Yeah.
Alchemy.
Alchemy.
Yeah, I was right.
Yeah.
Alchemy. Whatever. Terrible name. And then we also have House of the Dragons, The Princess and the Queen. So what I realized is we never actually told people what was coming up. We just sort of delved in and was like, here you go, guys. Listen. So
What do you mean?
like we never told them what was coming up in the show.
Oh,
We
right.
just
We
went
didn't do
into
an
it.
intro.
So
God, you think as teachers would be good at that?
no, we do what we want. So
Straight in.
it is what it is. But anyway, we're back in. Our code word for this time, if you're going to come into stream, is invitation. So you've got the invitation.
Sure. You've been invited.
No, invitation, not invited.
Sorry.
So anyway, let's get right into it. So I know you're all been waiting for it, but The Invitation is a brand new horror thriller. It's currently at the movies, and it's about a young woman who is caught and swept off her feet only to realize a gothic conspiracy is afoot. That is a horrible plot line. So
Yeah.
like looking at
Say
it,
a whole lot.
no, like reading that, you're like, what the hell is this movie? The trailer looked better. I saw the trailer and I was like, okay, I'm pretty interested in it. And then the posters were like, okay, this looks kind of a little bit vampire-y. So you've gone in there, you've hitting all these tropes. We do have our main actor, which is the girl who played Grey Worm's love interest in Game of Thrones.
I knew that's the first thing you're going to say.
Yep.
Was Miss Sunday.
Miss
Natalie Emmanuel.
There you go. I didn't want to say a name because I'm on a roll for messing up names. But Miss Sunday, she is pretty good in terms of holding her own and delivering us through it. Like she was quite good. But the whole story, I'm really confused about the pacing of this film. So I felt like it was either really fast, but not a lot happened, or it was like fast, but also nothing happened. Like I'm confused in terms of how quickly this developed. Like we went from her doing I guess we got what here in Australia, my ancestry sort of thing, like finding
like that ancestry.com. Yep.
Yeah, I don't know what they have around the rest of the globe, but in Australia we have my ancestry, and she sent off her DNA to like reconnect with her family because she didn't have any family.
She did it because it was in a gift bag at a venue she was catering for.
That's right.
She didn't do it for any good reason. She just happened to get it in a gift bag of rich people and sent away, and was instantly connected with a guy who was super full on, who was in fact her cousin. I didn't actually believe it at first.
No, it seemed a bit odd, didn't it? It was like, you're not really a cousin. And
it was, like you said, really quick. Like everything sort of happened and it was like a whirlwind. And maybe that was kind of intentional to sort of, mirror how she's feeling. Everything's sort of coming on so quick.
I guess.
But then instantly we're in England, and she's meeting her entire new family
within the first 15 minutes, I reckon. Well, we got introduced to the best friend as well, who has very little to do at all with the overall story besides having a bit of like back and forth in like I'm meeting this guy. and like sort of being, I guess it was used to be able to tell us that she had feelings for the rich guy that gets introduced to her.
Yeah,
Like I thought this was like a family reunion that she was going to. Like she just gets whisked
same.
away by her cousin and was like, "Come meet the rest of my family."
Hmm. Hmm.
And then they go to this castle, but it's not his castle. Like, like
No, it's the Lord's.
yeah, like
I thought he was so creepy. I mean, I guess he was kind of meant to be creepy, but they're all the fact that Natalie Evie, main character,
Evie.
um, Evie and the friend, I think it was Grace, when they are having a conversation about, oh, you met him, and oh, and they're like talking about how attractive he is, or Natalie's telling her how attractive he is, and saying that he's charming and he's this and that and whatever, and he's meant to be that sort of charming Englishman. But I felt like he was so creepy and
He had no
weird.
charm. It was
Yeah, I
full.
didn't think he was charismatic at all. It
No,
felt like he'd been, well, we sort of had been locked away for years.
yeah, he was. Well, even the cousin, and the main love interest,
Hmm.
everyone was creepy. Even the butler, he was creepy. Like the butler,
Yeah,
he's been in quite a lot of other things. I can't remember what he's in, but I'd seen him
he looked
around.
familiar.
Um,
Hmm.
was it
Hmm.
Renfield?
I
Sean
haven't seen that.
Pertwee? No, that's his name. That's what was his
Oh,
name,
I
Renfield.
think we were in a movie called Renfield. I'm like, I don't
Nah.
know
Yeah,
that.
yeah, he's on his thingo hit now. Apparently, he was one of the voices in Fable 2.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Yep.
Oh, that guy. I remember him now.
Thought you would.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, looking up his thing, it's massive.
Fair.
Just like
Yeah. Yeah.
quick glance, I can't tell you what
Hmm.
whatever it is, but whatever.
Eh,
He
it's not
was creepy.
important.
Everyone's creepy, but obviously
Yeah.
Miss Sunday's not creepy, or Evie. I should start
Yeah.
referring to
Yeah.
her to actually that.
I keep calling
She
her Natalie as well.
like she wasn't creepy. She was by far the best in this actual film. But the
She's
actual
great.
the whole horror tropes did not hit
Yep.
whatsoever. So like when she's
No.
actually in the castle and we're getting these
Hmm.
like quick flashes of like hands coming up behind her and stuff, I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
where's this going? Like you've haven't built any horror things at like any horror tropes or any suspense at all.
Yeah.
You're just
Besides the cold
throwing
opening.
yeah, you're just throwing like obviously some horror monster tropes in
Hmm.
there, which I still to this point in like I don't understand why they were in there. Like
No, because it was the vampires. Like, why would they be? They wouldn't be sneaky. Vampires aren't sneaky in the shadows. They're confident. They're
yeah,
confident and proud, and they wouldn't be sneaking her off into this unfinished library. Don't go in there. We're doing repairs. They wouldn't sneak someone off into there. They would just prey on them like they are lambs to the slaughter, just like how they treated them.
yeah,
It was weird.
yeah, and the all of that lead up with them showing all the hands behind it ruined the actual reveal because
Yeah,
you're like, all right, well, cool. There's
totally.
something's happening, and then
Hmm.
all of a sudden you feel like the whole pacing, like I was saying before, the pacing is completely off. Like I'm so
Yeah,
confused in terms of how they pace this film. It was like
it
here's a
was paced like
person.
a romance.
It wasn't though. It was like it was so quick.
Yeah, well, it was. There was like that meet cute at the beginning, and then it was paced out. And then when we reached sort of the end of Act Two, when it was plot twist that she was the bride, no one else that they're coming to meet or whatever. Um, which I mean, obvious. When that happened,
Yeah, but
that's when it took a twist and moved into a total what tried to be a new genre.
it didn't change genres. Like
Yeah, I'm not saying it did successfully.
how's the feast? Like all of a sudden you've gone, here's a few horror tropes, here's a few hands, and
I
they're like,
know.
you're the bride, and we're all
Yeah,
vampires. Ah!
surprise! You're on candid camera. It was so like
It's
it was
so sucked.
wild. Yeah,
Uh,
it did. And I've actually thought about this movie more than I should have because I
no.
think it did a lot of good things. I know, right? I think it did a lot of good things well. I think uh like directing wise and even the way it was lit and obviously a lot of the characters like did their roles really well. I love the other two brides. And that sort of leads me to where I wish the story went. I wish the reveal was at the beginning of the second act, like 20 minutes in, and we just go straight into the fact that you are a bride to be, and then the whole second act is like a story between the three women sort of working together, and there's a bit of like back and forth between them, like kind of make it uh like a girl, it's like a feminism story, I guess, and play with the characters a bit, because every scene with those three had more fun and more banter and more like back and forth charisma than any other scene. And like the scene in the where they got they're getting their like nails done and stuff, and that felt really tense, like something was about to happen the whole time, but nothing really did happen, and I kind of liked that. Those scenes with those characters, and that three very different characters from different time periods. It would have been cool to see sort of three women from different worlds sort of come together and potentially work together or whatever. Maybe I wanted something more tropey, like in that direction, not down like a comedy direction, of course, but I don't know. It like you said, the pacing was bizarre, and the plot was a met like it didn't go anywhere, and it was boring and predictable, and then it just sort of ended.
Now, I probably would have preferred just the younger bride, the one that had only been with the Lord for 100 years. Like she was kind
Yeah.
of, I would have liked those two to team up and like them to, I guess, take out the final like Lord, rather than obviously them, rather than all three teaming up.
That would have
Because
been cool though, like because there was that one, the older one, that was
yeah,
a bit like
but
bitchy or whatever.
the older
Getting
one was
her on
like,
side.
nah, she was like, she enjoyed the power and she enjoyed the prestige
Yes.
and was like jealous of obviously the other two getting attention,
Hmm.
which
And
to
she'd be a
me,
vampire for a lot longer.
yeah, which makes sense for me. I like the conniving sort of nature that she had. Like, I felt like
Hmm.
they established her reasonably well, but
Hmm.
the fight scene sucked. Like,
So shit.
like I like the special effects when the close cut to like their nails and their fangs coming out,
Yeah.
like the
Physical effects were good.
yeah, like their design and stuff for the vampires were cool. But if you're a
Hmm.
vampire, why are you throwing haymakers? I know you've got long nails, but like everyone was just throwing haymakers.
And none of their arms ever bent. They were just throwing these. I mean, they're attacking with claws, kind of the point. But the way they were just like throwing their arms around, it
Yeah.
reminded me so much of the way. And I mean, this is a bridge to future moments, but in Fullmetal Alchemist, the way that Greed fights when he's got his claws out, like it was so silly. It was so dumb.
Yeah. The whole fight scene where they were like just pushed her onto like the, I guess, impaling her on the sword or whatever it was, the
Yeah,
lance. I was like, it's really anticlimactic. Like,
yeah. And why would someone build a sculpture with a lance sticking out like that? That's super impractical. Ock health and safety. Come on, you should be picking this up, not me.
yeah, he beat me to it.
It was,
But
yeah, that part was silly.
and even the ending was silly, where all of a sudden she becomes, I guess, kind of like Blade, really. She becomes a vampire who's hunting other vampires.
Oh, like right at the end.
Yeah, like the
Yeah, like
to
fucking
resolve the whole thing up. I was like, all right, cool. Are you
yeah.
setting up for a sequel that you should never
She's now
get?
Van Helsing. Yeah, yeah.
I went Blade considering like she's still a vampire, I'm assuming.
No, she's not, because the whole thing was,
Oh, when they killed the
um,
Lord. That's right.
she drinks his blood, she gets his power. He drinks her blood, they all become immortal. She only keeps his power for as long as he's alive, and then she
Yeah.
burnt him, which she was told would kill him. And then she like you saw her like fangs retract, and then she had her fucking cool guys don't look at explosions or cool guys don't look at burning buildings slow mo walk out of the house.
That's right.
So bad. Let's
Uh,
let's lean away from that shit now.
yeah, but that worked with Django Unchained with like that over the top silliness and
Yeah,
that
but that's because
cheesy.
Tarantino leans into tropes, and that's kind of his thing. Whereas this movie was trying to be cool, and Tarantino sort of goes against cool, which makes it cool. I
Sure.
don't
But
know.
yeah,
There's a difference. There is a
I
difference.
think the difference was Tarantino. plays with it the entire time, so you kind of
Mhm.
come to expect it. Where this went for a more serious tone throughout, so
Yes,
they didn't. And then all of a
exactly.
sudden, you've got that cheesiness at the end. So
I do wish that this I don't know what the rating was. I didn't look it up. I'm assuming like MA or M or something,
uh,
but
I'm
I wish
on I'm on IMDb. It says PG-13, which would be our like M,
our M,
maybe
yeah,
MA.
it needed to be
It need
more
to be
violent, I
darker.
guess. Yeah, like even the beginning with the woman killing herself, they just did the lazy like cutaway and then like, oh, you hear the sound. And um if you're gonna do a story about vampires, like ripping people's heads off and drinking their blood, and like they tried going really gruesome with it, especially with the person getting their throat slit, but they couldn't show anything. It lost a lot of the visceral sort of grotesque feeling that you should get, like she was feeling. She was about to pass out over seeing this, and yet we can't see it. We can just see her reaction. We sort of hear it in the distance. um I think that was just sort of let it down a little bit. They couldn't go as deep as they probably should have with a vampire story and horror.
Yeah, that's fair. I just felt like they missed so many horror like opportunities. Like they pretty
Mm,
much revealed what was going to happen so early, even with like the hands and stuff coming out.
mm.
Like if it wasn't a vampire and like that was the twist, like they built for a vampire movie, but it turns out
Yeah.
it was like
Yes.
some monster, like that would have been
That's
way
what I
better.
thought. I thought the exact same thing. I'm like, oh, as soon as I saw the scene with the first scene, we see the hand. I'm like, probably vampire. And then you see Victoria. Victoria, there you go. The older I almost said witch, the older vampire bride. Um, you see her drink Evie's blood at one point. And I'm like, oh, it's a vampire, but that's so lame. I wanted it to be something interesting, something new, an interesting take. But he just became Dracula. He just became Bram Stoker's Dracula at the end. Um, I found out this movie was going to be called The Bride initially,
Okay.
and then they changed it because it was obviously too revealing of the twist. Um, but I think that they should have not bothered with a twist and done that earlier and played into, because that's where the story finally got interesting. I didn't care about the romance and the back and forth between these two characters and Lyle wondering what he is. I know what he is. I've already figured that out. Let's just move on to the next punchline. Let's just move on to the next story beat. It went for too long. Even at an hour, was it an hour and 40 or something? It wasn't that long of a
It
movie,
was about an
but
hour. It was about an hour and a half with some change, like an hour and 35 ish.
sure, sure. I was ready to stop watching at like the 20-minute mark, 25-minute mark, and then as soon as we finally kicked into second gear and there was the twist, um, the movie got interesting again. There's a whole middle chunk where it's just character scene after character scene. I don't care. It was cheap. A lot of the movie felt like filler, I guess, for the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was just this movie with a lot of potential, which they just didn't
Yes.
execute, which is
It makes it so
disappointing.
much worse. And I'm sick of vampires being fucked with. Like, surely we've learnt from Twilight. I mean, Twilight. There's no comparison between this and Twilight. Like this, at least stuck, relatively true to vampire lore. But I, if you're gonna do vampires now, it's a risky business. It's either going to be compared to Twilight because it's just shit, or it's going to be compared to Twilight because this is how vampire movies should be done. And sadly, this was the former. This was nothing new. It was nothing exciting, and it was kind of glorifying vampires again in a different way, and with slightly more, risque movements. Uh, but I think it was still boring as shit and nothing different than Twilight was.
Yep.
Better filmed.
Yeah. I mean, Twilight did have one reasonable film, which was the one that did 30 Days a Night or something, like the darker one, which was, I don't know, I can't remember it.
Mm-mm, neither.
But
I watched them all, but
I think it was
only
like
once.
the third one or something or other. I don't know.
Okay,
One of the darker ones, but I don't
I
really
believe
care.
you.
I don't care anymore. Whatever. Let's move on. What would you rate
Yeah.
this?
Like a 2.5.
Okay.
It,
Mine's
it there was still some good moments.
yeah, mine's a flat two. This
Yeah.
it just did not live up to the hype. You've missed so
Hmm.
many good opportunities. But
Hmm.
like the acting is good. Like everyone plays their role. They did quite well. Miss Sunday,
Definitely.
Evie, Natalie, whatever. She's got
Pick a name.
that's her name. She did really well. Like
Hmm.
she held her own. Like well done. But
She was great.
the butler I liked. The Lord
Yeah.
he played the Lord well. And yeah, I'm never
Hmm.
gonna watch this again. I can't recommend it.
No,
So,
exactly. I'd never. This isn't even a movie that I would say to like. I was saying last week. Was it last week about Margot that I just put on with friends because it's funny. This isn't even funny or entertaining. This
no,
is really boring, and I'd never bother again.
yeah,
And just characters doing the weirdest shit that makes no sense. Like she's like, "Oh, I'm just gonna go for a run." Like she went out of her bedroom. Well, I'm not sure it was the same night, later in the night, earlier or whatever. And there was all weird shit going on. And the woman, her like handmaiden, was like, "Oh, don't come out here; it's dangerous." And she's out running
yeah.
in the middle of some spooky woods where she's never been before. Just some weird character decisions.
You got to run. You got to get that cardiovascular up. Like, can you learn
Yeah,
anything from like
at
Zombieland?
midnight.
Yeah, Zombieland taught you all those rules in how to stay
Hmm.
alive. Cardio
Yeah,
is number one.
and some waitress from America somewhere knows all those rules somehow.
That's right.
Look at her go.
Uh,
She still runs next town and gets herself re-caught. And that could have been cool. Like that was something else that was really surface level. The fact that the whole village down the road was fully aware and sort of helping him. How cool would it have been if that happened earlier in the film and we got to see more of them and we got to like interact and learn more about the lore and the understanding between these. Like there was, like you said, so much missed potential.
yeah.
They've got heaps to play with, and they made it some bullshit romance that didn't even have the satisfaction of a romance.
No.
So yeah,
Yep.
but there's a lot of good in it too.
No,
The acting was great. Two and a
don't watch
half.
it.
Yeah, don't
No,
bother.
don't worry
It's
about it.
boring.
Skip it. Even if you get an
Yeah,
invitation, don't take it.
no,
Ah,
come on, man. You're better than this.
I'm not.
No, you're not.
I know my level of humor.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah,
Yep,
very self-aware.
yep. That's what sells it. Even I laughed
Hell
at it.
yeah. Yeah.
Oh, but geez, we're going from one which
Yeah.
felt like a long film into a very long
Into a
film.
very long
Oh,
movie.
Jesus. But Full Metal Alchemist, final transmutation or alchemy. Alchemist. I don't
Final
care.
alchemy.
It's it.
Alchemy.
No, the
Because he
title's
loses his alchemy. That's the whole
yeah. You
point.
just gave it away for everyone who hasn't seen it. Well done.
Well, we know he spoils shit here,
Spoiler
but
alert.
I think it goes without saying at this point. If you've listened to any other 5 episodes, you know that we don't talk about anything without saying a spoiler alert because we're
Yeah,
bad people, and I always forget.
yeah, whatever. You're coming for movie talks, so we're talking about movies. So deal with it.
Deal with it.
But anyway, we are into the third and final film of the Full Metal Alchemist, which
Yep.
I was interested to see which way they were going to take it, whether they were
Uh
going
huh.
Brotherhood ending or they're going the original anime ending, which they stuck to the source material.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Made
So
sense.
yeah,
Why would they go against the manga?
I mean, yeah, that's I guess the anime did just due to having the I guess not catch up to the manga or there was a hiatus. I don't know, whatever. I don't care. But we're back into we're back into our full overacting. Like the other films, they overacted,
Yeah.
but God, this dialed everything up to like 11. Like I don't know what in the hell they were doing, but this
Don't
is
know. I went in with a different mindset then because this annoyed me the least of all three. Maybe by now I'm just fucking desensitized and I already know I'm gonna
what
hate this a little bit.
Yeah, so the Elric brothers' long and winding journey comes to a close in this epic final where they must face off against an unworldly national wide threat. my God, did the CGI suck? Like,
Yeah,
I don't know if it was obviously this is the part in the anime where things get absolutely ridiculous, where we learn
yeah,
about
yeah.
the whole backstory of alchemy and the
It's bringing everything together,
yeah,
like episodes, hours upon
that's,
hours of information gathering all comes to a head.
which I
So perfectly written.
well, not in this, it's not. but obviously in the manga and also in the anime, really good. That's what you should be watching if you want that full experience. Where
Agreed.
the CGI, like they're picking up right where Ed, the prince, I always forget his name, and
Lin,
Lin, and also what's her name?
Envy.
Envy are trapped in gluttony, so they got eaten, and everything's like obviously really pitch black. But
Yeah,
Envy's transformation sucks. Like it's so glitchy in terms of
yeah, look bad.
I hate the visual, and just having
Yeah,
that I guess the black background didn't help it at all. Like
yeah.
it was hard to see. Everything looked really odd,
It
and then
it felt
every
like PS2 graphics
yeah, it's
in
a good
so many places.
that's a good comparison. Like Gluttony, who I thought they did well with the CGI in two with Gluttony when he gets his like head
Hmm.
chopped and like his introduction was cool. They just left just whatever they did in episode two, they were like, nah, we're not doing that. We're doing our own direction. I'm not sure if they had too many things happening on the screen at one time in terms of their
Yeah,
computer CGI couldn't keep up, but he looked
I
crap.
doubt
Like,
that's why.
you
But
don't reckon? I don't know. It's
no,
just
I
it,
mean, I think it's just, I mean, it could be something to do with like budget or that they're trying to spread resources thinner. Because I know they filmed both 2 and 3 at the same time. Maybe by this point they were rushing, or I don't know.
well,
I don't
they've
think it's
got
anything to do with like their computers can't handle the render or whatever.
I don't know. It didn't look as good. And like
Yeah, it
ah.
didn't.
And when they went to the north, like you know how the north is the only bad thing about the anime is they spend too long in the north.
Yeah,
They spent
I do agree.
like very little time in the north.
No, I think last time we watched the last episode, I said, "Oh, they won't even bother going there because there's no real reason or whatever besides the whole sloth interaction." And they might as well have not even gone there. It was, I'm going to the north, and then we cut to an establishing shot of the north, and then he's in the north, and then we meet our. There's like three or at least two very pivotal characters in the north, and the reason we spend so long there is we have to get to know them to bring them into the final foray. Uh, but in this, they just brush past it, and but before you even know it, you're bombarded with the sight of Sloth, which looks like absolute dog shit, is the worst out of all the animations and CGI effects and everything in this anime or adaptation. Sloth looks like balls, and he is so good in the series. He's so interesting and cool.
And like he was an actual threat for the north. Like they skipped over
Yes.
that and they had like all the tanks coming in. Like
Oh,
when
which looked so bad.
and Armstrong's like standing on there, just like cruising in, and they're just like
Yeah.
and then they just end it with like Ed, I'll test the person by their like character, and he kicks them off, and they just pour their mixed fluid on them. And they're like done. It was like
Yeah, that's it.
less than he was on screen less than probably 2 minutes, and
Yeah.
that whole fight scene. We're in the north for like a couple of hours, I reckon, like an
Hmm.
hour to an hour and a half at least in
Yeah.
terms of episodes. And they were just like, "No, nah, you're done. We've
We
done
get
the north."
probably four
Less than
minutes.
yeah, about 5 minutes, and they're like,
Yeah.
"Okay, cool."
And they have like Sloth. It didn't feel like Sloth. He's like a few times, oh, this is a drag, and oh, I have to put in effort now and things like that. Like, yes, okay, that stuff came across, but all her little like, oh, you lazy bastard, like she says some really like narky things to him. They don't feel earned because they haven't learned about what he is. How would she know that he's a lazy bastard or whatever when she's been interacted with him in one fight for 2 minutes? Nothing felt earned. They rushed so much. You can't send an anime with this much complex story into 3 movies, no matter how long you make them.
No, there definitely had to be more movies. I don't even know why they really bothered to like make this an
Money.
adaptation.
I
Yeah,
agree.
but
And
like,
again, my one of my biggest complaints is that it shouldn't have been a Japanese adaptation. Most of the words and most of the characters' names they don't even have like a translation for. That most of like gluttony and what other ones? There's a few of the seven deadly sins that it's not part of Japanese culture. It's just not. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Happy to be told otherwise by anyone listening. But um, in all the names like Hohenheim and like Armstrong and all that, they're like very German names. It just it loses a lot of what it's meant to be when they restrict every character and everyone to Japan. That's it.
oh, how was the all-knowing eye or like the dust particle, like the big bad? He looks so bad. And when the
The truth, like the
yeah, yeah, the whole thing that saves Hohenheim and gives him his name. I, I
oh
can't
the thing in the jar, the um
the thing that
oh my god.
started it
Yeah,
all.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I what's he called himself? Oh my god. Total mental blank. I hate this
yeah.
stuff.
But
That's so annoying.
there was
Uh
so much going on. But
yeah. And I'm it's hard to say because I like the source material a lot and I know it pretty well, but I feel like, and we said this last time, I feel like if anyone had no knowledge of the sorry seven deadly sins of the entire story and hadn't seen the anime and had watched this as their first introduction to Fullmetal Alchemist, I feel like you wouldn't know what the hell's going on. There are
no,
so many characters that are just rushed at the end, and even all the little cool side characters that help Hawkeye, like all the guy with like the cigar. I forget what was their names in the anime, but there's all these characters with complex backstories and all like the animal hybrids. Do you remember all those?
yep. They
How
were a
they
big
come into the story at the end as well.
emotional draw card as well.
Yeah,
They
and
didn't get
Greed's whole like backstory with like the mafia almost.
and
There's
even
so much.
Greed and Lynn's like back and forth in terms of control for the body and like the
Yeah,
inner
they
dialogue
get
and
like
stuff.
one scene. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, never.
Whereas that's a massive part of the
Pretty,
ending.
pretty sure Greed gets a full like body transformation, doesn't he?
We sort of see that in this version, where he goes like black, but his head doesn't go black.
No, he didn't get. He
Whereas
didn't
in
get.
the anime, his arms and legs did in
Yeah,
this
but he didn't get the
at
full
one
body.
point.
He didn't get the same sort of transformation.
No, no, he didn't. And King Bradley Wrath looks so weird as a grown man running around like Naruto with his arm behind
Oh,
his
with the
back, like
swords.
with the swords. Oh
Yeah.
man. Like I'm not sure what
Uh,
they could have done better. That's his fighting style. But again, this is the weird part about adapting anime is you can't just pretend it's an anime.
I mean, yeah, they could have had him running more of a intimidating nature.
Yeah.
Even the kid, what was the kid? Wrath? No, that wasn't Wrath. That was
Oh, Pride.
Pride.
Best
That's it.
actor.
The kid.
Yeah. Kid was the best actor in the whole thing. His scenes were great. He was like having such a good time. He was giving it his all. I love that kid.
Yeah, right. I thought he was like pretty much nothing because like
Well, they
in
didn't give him
the
much time.
but like in the anime, he's like really
Mm-hmm.
daunting and intimidating.
Mm-hmm.
Where the kid would kind of was
Mm-hmm.
like ah, he was like deadpanned the whole
Yeah, he just
time.
seemed more like a little Brady kid throwing a tantrum, having a scream.
Yeah,
Again, he didn't feel like Pride.
he was out of his
They meant
depth though. Like,
the actor.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
like everyone else. Like Ed was so annoying in terms of the
Yes.
overacting, but like
Yes.
everybody was overacting. Even Mustang. Mustang's meant to be this cool, like, sort of
Yeah.
gonna take no, like, I'll do whatever it takes to
And
win.
yeah.
He never
And even
came
his
across
arc
that.
doesn't feel that because maybe because he's actor, like he didn't. His arc is awesome in the anime, and what he becomes and what he sacrifices and uh, I love his journey and as almost as like a side character. But you get none of that. Like you sort of get, okay, he loses his eyesight at the end, but then what? Like we don't get that big payoff that's everything's in building to.
Yeah. We didn't even get the payoff of like Scar and his like redemption act. I know they like
No.
tried to hint at it, but like he never
Yep.
had that sort of bond or that motives like shift, and the whole like
Yeah.
blending of the alchemies never
Yep. Yep.
really got explored. It was like,
No.
here's my brother's book. All right, cool,
I,
cool
I
guys.
I read it some more. Like, cool, good job. You read a few more pages. I thought you read all the pages by now. Like, it just felt, yeah, what the heck?
Yeah,
It's silly.
even
And with I forget the character's name, the girl from the same place Ling's from.
oh, with the
Um,
like the little panda and whatever.
yeah, her.
Yeah,
She is way too old. She's meant to be like a young kid. She's meant to be almost even too young for Al, and Al's meant to be like 14, younger. I
yeah,
forget.
something like that. Whatever. I don't know. He's meant to be
She
something.
looks like a middle-aged woman with pigtails. It was weird.
I thought the grandpa did all right. You know, the older bloke who was the bodyguard of Lynn, like the
Oh yeah, yeah. He was pretty
yeah,
good.
I thought he
Uh-huh.
was good.
Yep.
The girl didn't. She wasn't as boss as she was in the anime. Like
No.
she was the cool reveal with like where she gets a like a robot arm and stuff. It's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Where that was
Definitely.
rushed over. Like so much was rushed. I know it was a long movie, but it felt rushed.
Yeah.
And like
And
Hohenheim's like absolutely domination of power is never really explained in terms of how he
mm,
controls so
yes.
much. Like with a
Yes.
tap of a
Yes.
foot, he was able to like encase.
Mm-hmm.
Who did he encase? That was
We've been there for like actual Hohenheim, right?
no Ed and not Ed, Al and it was a batter of wheels.
Okay. I'm drawing a blank.
Oh no,
But
it was Pride. Him and Pride, because Pride they were like, you can't use your shadows if you're all in shadows.
oh, sure, that's right. They put him
Yep.
in that chamber. Yep. And then just Clayton just walks up and opens it. I will say though that the CGI when they were having like a wizard battle almost, and they're having the alchemy back and forth, and that was quite good. I think
Yeah.
that's when it shone the best was when it was, um, just more of like, what do you call it, particle effects and more like lightning and that CG scene at the end between Hohenheim and the father uh, was really cool. I thought was really well done for sure.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Like a Dragon Ball Z live action, like if they were able to use all those
Oh
particle
yeah,
effects and stuff, like that would work rather than
yep.
the the average whatever we got with Dragon Ball Evolution. God, that was a
Do
shocker.
you know I've never seen it?
No,
I've never watched it. I
do
never
yourself
want to.
do yourself a favor and watch it. It's incredible.
Uh, we'll put it on the rotation one week.
Yeah, we'll throw it in there as an add-on. But
Mm,
yeah, the fight scene was good. I did enjoy that. Like there
yeah.
was a lot going on, and I like how they had
Yes.
to like keep chipping away at obviously the big bad and how powerful he
hmm
was. I
hmm
I felt like the disappointment was when they actually are interacting with ours body in the I forget what it's called, but when they go into the actual gate or whatever it's called, the
Yeah. Yeah.
all knowing. But
hmm
I like the
Totally.
interactions in the anime of that all knowing being was like, I'm interested to see what you're going to give up. Like
Yeah.
it felt really mysterious. It felt like such
hmm
a big threat. Like he knew what the game he
Totally.
was playing, and these guys had
Yeah.
no
Yeah.
idea what the game. Where they never had that interaction of like, haha, I know exactly what game I'm playing. You need
Yeah.
to learn my rules. But
Yes. Yes.
like,
It
they,
almost felt like where in the anime, and this is probably the biggest letdown in the anime. It feels like it's a massive sacrifice. And I've watched the anime a couple of times, and I get teary at the end every time because uh, Ed is giving up, or Edward is giving up the biggest thing in his life to bring his brother back. And it goes to show that everything that they do everything comes back to their bond and their relationship. And because we didn't feel that at the end of this film, it didn't feel that heavy. It felt more like they got their way. It almost felt in a way that Edward was able to just like teleport in, sort of zip in, and be like, you know what, have this, and I'll go on my merry way, and everything will be good again. Um, and it didn't have that sacrificial payoff like it did in the anime. There's a scene in the anime at the end where he's on the roof and he like claps his hands and puts his hands down. He's like, well, I thought I'd worth a try, sort of thing, and you can see that he misses it. But in this adaptation, he just moves on, which is fine because he should be content with the way that the life is now. But it didn't feel the same, and that's a huge letdown for a very. It's the biggest payoff for the whole thing. It all leads to that moment.
Yeah, well, they didn't really establish the bond between Ed and Al either. Like it was kind of
No.
they never had each other in those like peril that they do in the anime. But
Hmm.
I also hated the Philosopher's Stone. It just looked like jelly or like gel. Or
Yeah.
ha! And like the worst one was when Lin gets the stone on him, and it was just like a real quick cut to now you've got the Philosopher's Stone in your blood. That's now
Yeah.
you're
That didn't feel. Again, that's the end of his character's arc. That was his goal. It didn't even feel. Again, he was like, "Oh yeah, I accept." And then he went and saw Truth. Like he went and met Greed in sort of the same plane as Truth, and they were like, "Oh, you want it? Like, cool, here, have it." And then there's a bit of, like you said, a little bit of tossing between the two personas, and then there's so much that is missed in this. And as an anime, Full Metal is 64 episodes, 62 episodes, 60 something,
yeah, something
and
like that.
every episode is important. Every minute is like almost fine tuned. Such good writing. Um, you can't condense it down to 3 movies and have anywhere near the same emotional reaction.
No, so unfortunately, it is a bit of a letdown. So,
Mm.
what would you give it though?
Uh, this movie was the better of the three. It's probably the one I'm more likely to go rewatch. Um, but it's still a two, or maybe 2.5. I don't know what I gave the other ones, but I left. I probably had the most fun, but I still left the most bitter because it had nowhere near the payoff that it's meant to have at this point. Yeah, so
Yeah,
disappointing.
yeah, I felt like they rushed over so many important things,
Hmm.
and it was just it felt anticlimactic in terms of where you want that story to go. Like in the
Hmm.
even both of the animes, I was like left going, yeah, that was a sick ending. Like
Hmm.
I'll think about it for quite some time. But this was like, all right, I'm never gonna watch you again. It's a two,
Yep.
the two for
Yep.
me. I was like, all right, cool. You've wasted a lot of potential. This is one of
Hmm.
unfortunately Netflix keep putting their prices up, but they are trying to deliver like original sort of content in terms of and like do a
You
number
say
of
that.
they're trying,
Well, they
but
are doing new stuff. You're right,
that
but
like
then
they're trying and they are delivering on some things, but like majority of the
yeah,
time, Netflix at the moment is missing, and like this is another miss. Like I'm not sure
yeah,
why they've gone. Let's let's do 3 movies. They could have done this as a TV show and like fleshed it out longer.
sure,
Like that would
yeah,
have been way better. Like you should look at the source material and go, 3 movies, 64 episodes at say 20
yeah,
minutes a piece. All right,
hmm,
that's a lot of content that we have to fit into
hmm,
say what if they're all 2 and a bit hours. Let's just
yeah,
say it's 3 hours. You got 9 hours to be able to tell this story, and I don't think you
yeah.
can.
No,
It
imagine
needs
trying to fit Full Metal into 20 episodes. You
yeah,
just can't.
no. So
Yeah,
that's
it's disappointing.
that's what they need to look at. They just need
Or
to
even like like you said, live action TV show, or if they'd have to almost like a cinematic universe, and they could probably explore different moments in time. Like you could go back to you could do a whole episode, a whole movie on the Ishvalan War,
Yeah.
and because there's that like insane alchemist that's like like burning everything, going ape shit.
Oh yeah,
Um,
they didn't even touch on him really.
no,
They
you
showed
sort
him
of
once.
saw him in a flashback, but you never got to actually experience his character. That would have been cool. Have a whole story about him and his arc, and maybe they finish him off or whatever because he's too insane, or this Full Metal Alchemist could be an entire cinematic universe of like 10 or so films, and it's just wasted potential. And now no one's going to do live action. I don't think that live action Full Metal was a bad thing. I wish it was done better because now it's gone
Even if they
and it
spent
was
time with
lame.
like Lust and Greed, like their like
Yes.
rise to power, or like all of them, and just give them more of a backstory because you never
They all
really,
died so easy.
yeah, like no, they were a huge threat in the
Oh
actual
yeah.
anime, but this it
Hmm.
was like, okay, these are bad guys.
Yeah.
Let's deal with
In the
them.
anime they feel unkillable, but then in this there's a probably a 8 minute passage where three of them die and fade into the distance, and it's like, well, now they're not a threat at all.
No, like Sloth got done in less than a minute.
Yeah.
And he was fight. I reckon they had that fight scene for at least 2 episodes. I like dealing with this
Yeah.
absolutely
Yeah. With the two
chaotic.
Armstrongs, and you see them back and forth between the camaraderie, but also the competition between siblings. Like,
Oh, that's
there's
right.
just so much.
And she never really came across as like the imposing
No,
force that she was meant to be.
no. She's meant to be a real Helga, like a
Yeah.
real powerful woman, and she didn't feel that at all. I know. Man, I want to bring this down even more. It was worse. Making more and more upset the
uh,
more I talk about it.
yeah. Well, we'll move on then.
I
So,
like.
hey.
I like.
All right, let's do it. So we'll move
Let's
on
do it.
to House of the Dragons, the episode 6, The Princess and the Queen. So we have
Mm.
all been waiting for it. This is our 10-year big time skip
Jump.
and our new actors. So I got to say, I came into this going, oh, I'm very concerned about the actors, but like HBO have done a really good job with the actors. I really liked them. I
Okay.
thought you didn't like them. I,
I
I
struggled.
Okay. I gotta say, Rhaenyra's entrance right at the start where she's giving birth and then the queen is doing her like manipulation kind of I want to see
Yeah.
the baby and
Yeah.
her like that won me over straight away to see her just get up from giving birth and just
In
been
one
like
take.
yeah like gets up walks across and like you can see
Uh-huh.
the bits of trail of blood and like obviously I've got 2 kids as well but seeing my wife give birth and stuff I was like to see someone move after that, like that is
Yeah.
just an absolute boss move. Like to to just
So you know what? You want to come see me? Fuck you. I'll come see you right now. I
yeah.
just gave birth, bitch.
And she just like just goes in there. I was like, this is incredible. I'm like, all right, you've
Yeah.
won me over. I've got no misconceptions of you being the new like Rhaenyra. I was like, all right,
Yeah.
cool, you're in. I'm set sold on you. And we're
I took
out.
longer.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know. I think it's just me being a simpleton. I never felt like her, I guess. Even almost towards the end, it still felt like strangers in a room at times.
Okay. I thought they did well with her because like, obviously it's 10
Mm,
years. She's in a marriage that she is not happy about whatsoever. There's still
hmm.
that real tension between obviously Allison and her. Like there's that power play that's still going on.
Yeah,
Like I,
Allison's holding a 10-year grudge.
yeah. And I feel like that power play is still doing quite well. Like I quite
Yeah.
like that interaction between them. And obviously the kids obviously have a little bit of a grudge as well. Like they're
Hmm.
having that little back and forth. And Allison really doesn't like Rhaenyra's kids either,
Yeah.
where she's having that conversation with the king. But
Yeah.
I gotta say, the king. really annoys me in terms of I wanted the king just to like be gone. Like we
How's
saw
he
it,
still alive?
we saw we saw him on Death Door at the end of episode
Yeah.
5, and then he's
We skipped
back.
10 years.
I mean, he looks like Gollum. He's not doing well, but
He's missing an arm.
yeah, it's just like why do you need to be there? I feel like you're not really
Yeah.
furthering the story. I feel like we could have done without you and allowed that sort of real power struggle that is obviously going to
Yeah,
come.
exactly right. There's still, I think they need to do at least one more episode before he died, because if they did a time skip and he also died in that time skip, then there's going to be too many things kicking off. Like I think personally, we needed an episode to reestablish our new actors and to reestablish all these new child characters and how King's Landing is now working. Um, Reestablish a new love interest with Rhaenyra. Um, I don't think I'm glad he didn't die. Like, I mean, I'm surprised, and how the fuck is he still alive? But also, I
Oh,
think it would have been
Hawks
too much.
or
What?
Hawk, the father of the child.
What
Which
are you
which
talking about?
which love interest you talking about for Rhaenyra?
Oh, yeah, the father of her children.
Yeah, he's dead, man.
He's dead now.
He died at the end in the fire.
Yes, I know that.
You just said he. What?
What? What do you think I said?
I thought you said he. I'm glad he didn't die. He dead.
What? No, I'm talking about introducing new characters.
Ah, right. Whatever.
He was a new character. Well, he was a new character, but he didn't have much of a role to play in previous episodes. Like, I think they needed an episode before the king died, is what I'm saying.
Ah, I got you. I thought you were talking about.
Good listening.
Oh, mate. It is, yeah. I reckon I do agree that they needed probably a halfway episode. I feel like they needed to do like at least a flashback or something in terms of establishing where those rumors sort of came from. Because I know, obviously, right at the start, where Allison's like, keep trying, maybe the next one might look like you.
Yeah, right.
So, like,
What a
apparently,
fucking power move.
so that is actually a quote. Like some of the dialogue, it actually quotes from the historical book that obviously this is set upon, where that
Sure.
line is actually set in the book, which is
Yeah, nice.
I did some reading, so I was like, that's really
Yeah, yeah,
cool.
yeah.
I like that,
I do love
and
that line. I
I
was like, oh, she really say that? Fuck.
yeah,
Good on you. Like, fuck.
yeah, calls it like
Yeah, right.
absolutely no tomorrow. But like that sort of love interest for Rhaenyra and that sort of rumor mill needed to be
Hmm.
established. Like that's the
Hmm.
downfall of all these time skips is like we miss so much and we don't have that
Yes.
rumor and plotting that comes along with it.
Yes.
Like the smaller time skips is where they sort of did really well. And we
Hmm.
still got that sort of feeling where this was too much of a time skip to be like, your scandal is obviously your husband is not the father of your children.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like surely I don't know, everyone else in terms of when the Targaryens marry each other, they have that like bleach blonde hair and
Hmm.
Rhaenyra's kids have dark hair.
Obviously, yeah.
Like
Why is no one picking that up?
like
Yeah.
I don't know, that seemed really obvious. And the king's like, he's obviously in denial of what's happening because he's like, he's got your father's nose, doesn't he? Or whatever.
Hmm. Hmm.
Well, I always forget what his name is. Lee something or other.
Leomund?
Yeah, whatever it is, like the sea serpents.
Leopold?
Whatever. He's
I forget.
like he's got absolutely no interest in her whatsoever. Like
Uh-huh.
he's in the marriage just to hold up his end of the bargain.
Yeah.
And
And
like
he's now with some other knight guy
yeah, whoever that is. But I
from
felt
one
like
night to the next.
the fullback of that scene in the wedding where Cole absolutely smashed the guy,
Joffrey.
yeah,
Sir Joffrey.
the guy that we can't sort of remember his name, like his
No, that's his
guard.
name.
Yeah, Joffrey's the guy he smashed, but like Rhaenyra's husband, the sea
Oh,
serpent.
right.
Yeah. So like
Yeah, his name I forgot.
it,
remember his one time character boy toy,
yeah, but
but I
it's
can't remember his
yeah,
goddamn
that's because
actor's
his
name.
name was Joffrey, and like Joffrey was obviously a
I know,
pretty big
right?
character. So and he's just like there was no fallout for Cole besides
Hmm.
like
Yeah.
Allison taking him on board. Where
Hmm.
I felt like Allison felt more of a new character in terms of she's obviously developed. I know they hinted at it, but she definitely feels like she's people are
Yeah.
going to make the Cersei sort of connections, but
I was
she
I was about to.
yeah, like people are going to make those comparisons. That's what she felt like. She's moving things behind the
Yes.
scenes. You're seeing that, and she's making those power plays, which I like. Like you need to have a bad guy, which a perceived bad guy. Obviously, Game of Thrones
Hmm.
doesn't really have those. You're the bad guy. Besides, what was his name? The guy that was an absolute menace with like Jon Snow in Game of Thrones.
Oh,
Um,
Ramsay Bolton.
yeah, he was
Yeah,
bad. He was a bad guy.
he was a bad guy.
He was a bad guy. There's no disputing that.
But
Uh,
again, even in him, his dad was working with the Starks at one point, so it wasn't his family name wasn't necessarily a bad guy. Like he was a bad guy, yes, and things he did were bad guy things, but there was still that sort of grey area of family ties.
yeah, but no, he was a bad guy. He's the rest of his family weren't, but he was a bad guy. But anyway,
Mm.
we're
Well, his
digressing.
dad was too.
Yeah. So Allison, she felt like a new character for me, where I liked the
Hmm.
power play she's doing, and they did tease at it in the previous episode. So like
Yeah.
good. That's a good choice. Rhaenyra really looks like her mum. I felt like they've deliberately picked this character based on how she looks
Okay.
to look like her mum. Like I felt,
Sure.
I see the visual, I guess, comparisons or similarities
Yeah.
in that. So
I
like,
didn't pick that up. I can't remember what mum looked like really that well, but
yeah,
interesting. Yep.
that's what I felt. They have more
Hmm.
dragons in this than probably almost all the episodes combined. Like we
Oh,
saw
definitely.
the kids trying to get, I guess, mastery of their dragons,
Yeah.
and like,
Bonding.
yeah, that was kind of cool. I felt
Hmm.
like Allison's kids are way more interesting than Rhaenyra's. Like
Yeah.
Argon, or whatever his name is, the
Aegon. Yeah.
Yeah, where he's like his sort of introduction scene, where I was like,
Was wanking out the window. Dude, what the hell was that? And I think that's the same. I'm not sure if it's meant to be intentional or if I'm just reading into it too much, but I think it's the same window that do you remember when Cersei's son like offed himself, just yeeted himself out the window?
yep.
I think that's meant to be the same window. I'm not really sure, but
I don't think it was
like, is
because
that
he was higher up though, wasn't he? Because didn't the other Cersei's son Tommen or whatever, however you say it,
yeah,
he
yeah.
just jumped out like one of the boardroom window kind of
I
things.
thought it was his actual bedroom.
No, I'm not sure, but yeah,
Anyway, I think either way I think it was meant to be like a little nod to, you know, what different people treat the same place. It can be viewed in very many different ways. And from this young, uh, you know, lad going through puberty, that's how he sees the world. The world is his comrade.
yeah, like
uh,
he
Super
obviously,
interesting introduction.
and he comes off as like that arrogant sort of um
Yeah.
I have the right to rule,
Yes.
etc. Like,
Very
yeah,
self-obsessed.
yeah. And you can see that obviously when they're fighting. And I did like the interaction between Cole and Rhaenyra's, I guess, father of her children.
Oh
What,
yeah,
what,
strong. I forget his
what,
first name, but
yeah, what was
he's
his
a, he's
name?
a strong. Yeah, when they're like
Lars?
coaching
Lays?
each side.
Lays Strong, yeah.
I can't
I
remember. I really remember it.
I really
If you said
enjoyed
it, I remember it.
I enjoyed
Sorry.
that fight scene. That was cool. Like
Yeah.
seeing obviously Aegon, or he was way stronger and older than
Hmm. Hmm.
Rhaenyra's eldest son, and was
But then Rhaenyra's son had the tenacity, the never give up, and the fire, which makes sense again. Like it's Alicent is very planned and sort of, she's aware of her status and how her status can get her anything, whereas Rhaenyra is far more about fighting to get what she wants, and she'll use her status to get her way if she has to, but she'd rather threaten people and
yeah,
rather just get straight to the neck. Um, and power play as well. I mean, she went against it in the end. But when she said to Laenor, so Laenor, when she said to Laenor, um, you must stay here. I'm as the future queen. I'm just going to demand it. Like, what are you going to do about it? But in the end, she ends up bailing anyway, which is fair. And they go to Dragonstone.
Yeah, there's like,
Dragonstone.
yep,
Mm,
yep.
that's cool. Back there again. Back to her because was she named Heir of Dragonstone? Is that how it works? I forget.
No, I can't
Uh,
remember. But yeah,
Either
that's gonna
way,
be
she's just.
interesting, especially
Hmm.
with Damon. He was having a more of a quiet episode, like he wasn't his
Yep.
chaotic nature, which is fine. Like we've been introduced with so many new characters and so much
Yeah.
happening. But before we go into that, like obviously the interaction between like Cole all of a sudden has that massive switch. Like I know
Hmm.
there was no like lead into that. Like we have that dialogue in terms of Allison and Cole, and he's just all of a sudden just
Yeah.
absolutely abusing her. I was like, what has
Full
happened?
of hatred.
Yeah, what's happened in that 10 years? Like, where's the fallout that's happened?
I think he's meant to have been. I think I misread, or we might have misread how he was coming across in previous episodes. I thought he was being more sort of jealous, but I think it's meant to be more like at the point where Rhaenyra sort of rejected him, his love turned to hate, and at that point, he was just full of anger and hatred towards her and everything she stands for, and that's why we've seen him so violent since. Um, his voice is deeper, which I mean, obviously is like an age thing, but I also think it might lean to the fact that he's now yelling a lot more and a lot more like angry in his tone. Has weighed down on his voice. Uh, so yeah, he's a very angry boy, full of hatred.
Yeah. And you see that when he's like poking and prodding in that fight scene. Obviously, he's
Mm,
like, I guess, describing and coaching Aegon or whatever. I always
hmm
say it wrong, but coaching him to absolutely just demolish Rhaenyra's son. And
Yeah.
then he's just absolutely poking like the bear of Strong being
hmm
I guess, the father of Rhaenyra's children. And then we have that
Yeah.
massive fight. Like that obviously sets in stone the rumors of what we were expecting.
hmm
But
But why
like,
is he like punished for it? And yet, when Christian Cole beat the shit out of another knight, like we don't know what happened after that. He's
no,
he's now go on.
but with the time skip, like we never saw that fallout. 10 years has passed.
Exactly.
He could have been jailed. We don't know what's happened. Like he was going to off himself, but Allison obviously stopped him at the end of
Mm,
episode 5. Like
mm,
that's the downside of doing those massive time skips. Like
it is.
we don't deal with what happened with
Hmm.
that. We're just
Hmm.
presented that he has so much hatred for Rhaenyra, and
Yeah.
like,
And we don't see that like fester. He just seems like a angry ex-boyfriend now. Like he doesn't. Yeah, I know what you mean. He doesn't come across. He seems like a stroppy boy rather than an angry, resentful filled man.
yeah,
Um, yeah,
yeah. So
but
I did enjoy that fight scene. That was good.
definitely, and I like what his character is now. I do like that he's angry and whatever. I just wish that they had painted a better picture or had explored it better.
Yeah,
But I think all in all, really good episode.
yeah.
Um, the
But
ending with what's his name? The other strong one whose name's Strong. Um, the one who was like pulling all the strings in the background, and at the end he's the one who killed his father and brother.
the
What was his
plotting,
name?
uh, there
I should know this
is
crap.
so Lord Lionel Strong, Lars Strong, and well, but yeah, Sir Harwin Break
No,
Bone
Laris.
Strong.
No,
Laris.
Laris.
Yep. So Laris
Laris
killed.
Strong.
Yeah, he
Um,
is a conniving little man.
yeah, he is a whole new kettle of fish. I liked how when we first got introduced to him, he felt like a background character, and then now he isn't, and that's such a good introduction to who his character is because he does sit in the background and is very invisible. One of his first scenes is when he's at I think the wedding ceremony or something early, um, and he was like, "Oh, I want to sit with the women," and he goes and sits down with all the women gossiping rather than joining the men for drinks and food and whatever, because that's his thing. He's he's smart and plays people against each other based on words rather than violence, and I
Yeah,
like that in a Thrones character.
yeah, he was cool pulling
Mm,
the strings. But how
hmm
cool was seeing them riding the dragons? Obviously, Damon has taken a new bride, which
Yep,
is the princess of the sea serpent. So obviously,
Lena.
yep, she,
Yep.
yep. So that was really cool. I enjoyed them obviously riding the dragons
hmm hmm
and like the interaction of her trying to give birth and not being able to, and obviously calling the dragon to sort of end her life
Yeah.
is really fitting. I
Yeah. She wanted a dragon's death. She's a dragon rider's death, she
yeah.
said.
Look, like reading about, obviously I've started the book and I'm trying
hmm
to like get through it. But
hmm
did we ever see Damon and her children? Like, was that ever shown?
In the show,
Yeah,
yeah, we saw she had twins.
yeah, she did. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I couldn't
I forget the
remember.
names, but she had twins. Yeah,
Yep,
two twin
yep,
girls.
yep.
And
Cool.
one of them, Damon, was teaching High Valyrian, and the other one said that Dad ignores me. So one of them, and I think it's because one of them has a dragon, has hatched a dragon, is now a dragon rider
Yeah,
or
that's right.
to be,
Yep,
and the
yep,
other one's like, "Oh, I can't hatch my dragon." So
that's
Damon
right.
sees that as like a sign of weakness and
Yep,
ignores her.
yeah, that's right.
Mm.
Yeah, I forget we've watched so much, and
No, that's fair. That's
it's
very
been a
fair.
lot.
I mean, I watched it just before I got on stream, so
Yeah. So yeah, like overall, I did enjoy where it was going.
hmm
I did like the children. I feel like obviously that's going to play a massive thing moving forward. We do
yeah,
have another time skip at some point where it's going to even further this across
yeah.
and see
But
where
it
else
won't
it's
be
going to go.
it won't be 10 years again.
No, but will the
Might be.
it could be. Are we going to get new child actors? Like, obviously, the children are going to have to get older because
Yeah.
they obviously play a major thing into the
hmm
storyline. But like, I don't know how many times can you further and bring in new actors?
Yeah. That is something already that has me nervous about where this show is going to go in sort of the years to come, how many they're planning, um, how many skips we're going to have. Uh,
Although I think with all
don't know
the spin-offs, I think they're going to calm down a little bit and not drag this out
if
in
focus
terms
more
of
on, yeah,
because they're doing like Jon Snow's getting his
yes, he is.
new I don't know show, which I don't
When's that
know
set, by the way?
after.
I know nothing about
It's after the events of Game of Thrones. Like there's no law, there's no nothing. Like there's no story
it.
past it. Like old mate Martin hasn't even finished the Game of Thrones book. How about you do
Yeah, no
that before you
shit.
start making new stuff?
Yeah.
Like
mm,
whatever. Like whatever. But anyway, like
anyway,
good
it's
building
fine.
episode, and obviously we have our strong killing his own, which is
hmm
nothing kind of new in Game of Thrones, but
No.
his weaseling and his presentation at the end, very very cool scene.
Yeah, I
And
didn't expect him to be so ruthless. I thought he was more of a puppet master in the background, but for him to, go release some prisoners, remove their tongues, they wouldn't speak of it, more or less hire them to kill his father and brother. Didn't expect it from the character, just didn't expect it, which is great. I like
Yeah.
when the show gives me things I don't expect.
Yep. That's what this show's kind of been missing.
Mm.
So
But it didn't mean a whole lot because I didn't care about the characters that died.
no,
I
but
mean, yeah.
I guess when you're introduced in the same episode and then you die, like, okay,
Hmm.
I haven't spent
Hmm.
that much time to establish any
Yeah,
emotional connection to you,
definitely.
which is fair, but it's like it was
But
a
you're
bit.
right. It is the double-edged sword of doing all these time skips and stuff, is we don't get to spend time with characters and love them and hate them and care when they die.
Yeah, I do gotta say, like, it felt like a start of a new series. It didn't feel like
It did.
midway through a season.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
it's a really weird feeling to come into an already established, like, I guess,
Hmm.
5 hours of a show and then feel like a brand new premiere,
Yeah. Yeah. That's
which is
very accurate.
which
I
is
probably
really
would have
weird.
preferred a skip this massive sort of end of season kind of thing. But I mean, I get why they have to do what they have to do because that's just the way that the law's written. But yeah, it is in ways holding the show back, and why I think it hasn't been as interesting and as captivating as Game of Thrones was at this point.
Yeah.
But I'm still enjoying it. I'm
Oh
just
yeah.
not like I'm not living and breathing it like I was with Thrones at one point.
No, the interweaving sort of storylines and
Mm,
who's going to die or who's going to survive was
yeah,
the
yeah.
draw card. And obviously, Game of Thrones has already given away the ending of this show, so
Yes.
we already know what's going to happen. It's just how they
Hmm.
get there. So, like, yeah, I guess you could just read the book and find out, but we're
Nah,
watching the show.
not in me. I don't read.
Well, what would you give this one? This builder premiere
Uh,
mid-season episode?
like a three, 3.5.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it was good. It built. I struggled with the skip, and I felt disconnected with some of the characters, but all in all, still a good episode. So had some interesting moments.
Yeah.
Uh, Still would rewatch.
Yeah, I definitely liked the new characters. Like, I am at ease that they're going to do a good job. I'm interested to
Hmm.
see the conflict between Rhaenyra and Alicent come to a head.
Mm,
Um, I
definitely.
I already know where it's sort of going with Rhaenyra, so I've kind of already spoiled for myself, like reading ahead in the book. But
Oh, okay.
so I know where that's going. So
I know nothing.
I am
I've
really
intentionally been avoiding everything.
yeah, I'm really trying to make sure that I don't like spill where it's going, and I'm just talking about things during the episode.
From this
Hence,
episode.
yeah, but I'm really am interested to see how the kids develop and their interaction. Like, I
Yep.
really liked how Allison's kids are more engaging in terms of
Hmm.
the sort of where they're going to go, and
Hmm.
Rainier's kids, they do feel like just a bit more that they are just kids. But
Yeah. Yeah.
it's definitely going to build. You can feel things are obviously simmering, and you can see obviously we're getting those twists and turns, and we're going to see a lot more
Hmm.
coming. So for me, it's probably a 3 to 3.5. Like,
Yeah.
it wasn't my favorite episode, but it's
Hmm.
definitely something that I am excited to see where they're going to go with it.
Yeah. Well put. Well put. Agreed.
Yeah, so bit of a build, bit of a weird mix of that new premiere, but you're going to get that when you get so many characters coming in. So
Yeah.
yeah, they did pretty well considering.
Mm.
All right, next week, we won't be doing dragons because I'm on a family holiday and we won't be able to record on the Monday. So we're going to record on the weekend and bring you 3 movies instead. So we're going to bring you
You.
Blonde, which is Marilyn Monroe's biopic, which is on
Hmm.
Netflix, and that's coming out this week.
Super keen.
And then we're bringing you a absolute dumpster fire, which looks like Jurassic, Jurassic domination. Like, it looks horrible. I don't even want to spoil it, but you're in for a treat.
I think it's just ripping off the Jurassic Dominion, right?
No, I don't think it's gonna. It's
Not
got
even.
it's got dinosaurs. I think that's the only
The word
reference.
Jurassic. Okay, sure. I'm
That's the
excited.
only reference to it. And
Okay.
the movie Full, which I don't know much
Hmm.
about, but it looks reasonably interesting. And I was like, yeah, let's do
Yeah.
that one too.
Uh, I was talking to someone and they saw a section of Fall on TikTok and said it looked really interesting. So I was like, yeah, I'm keen on watching that. I keep seeing it on websites and stuff. Keep thinking it looks interesting, but now I'm actually gonna watch it.
Yeah, I'm hoping it's not like a really big letdown, but like those movies that get hyped and like they've got one scene that's really cool, and it's got like nothing
Yeah,
else,
yeah.
like no
I don't think
substance
it's
to it.
been hyped. It definitely hasn't been hyped, but you're right. Like maybe the scene that they saw, they were telling me about, was the only good one. Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll see. We'll
we'll
tell you
see.
next week.
We will tell you next week. So we are keeping our regular release time, which is on the Tuesday at 6
Mm,
a.m. Australian Central Standard Time. So you got the
heck yeah.
Vodcast, and also we're out on pretty much every platform. So if you're on Apple, give us a 5-star rating. It's really good. And Spotify, I don't know if you can rate on Spotify, but
I don't know.
follow, hit the bell, do whatever.
Like, review, and subscribe. That's
Yeah, just do
one of
whatever.
those
Like
things.
if it's word of mouth, just tell your friends, tell them all.
Tell all your
Don't worry about it.
friends.
Just everybody, even if they're not your friends, acquaintances. Tell your acquaintances as well.
Oh, that's a good point.
Like
It
they
shouldn't
don't
just be exclusively to friends.
don't have to be friends. Just tell them all.
Yeah.
Tell everyone.
Just strangers on the street. Just like, hey, how are you? Who are you? Hey, have you seen the podcast? Can you please leave me alone? Yeah, it's really, really good. Bye.
Yeah,
That could be the interaction you have with a
but
stranger
actually,
tomorrow.
like, tell them what the podcast is, because if you just have that interaction, they'll be really confused. Tell them, like, tell them, listen to movie talks.
Yeah, and just make sure you spell out how to spell Ryman because movie talks isn't that easy to find sometimes.
Yeah, and make sure you spell it the German way with the E before the I, not the English way with the I before the E, just to
Oh
make it
shit.
just to make it more confusing.
Just
But
to make us all angry.
yeah, whatever. So tell everybody, tell your friends, tell your acquaintances, tell your
Tell
family,
everyone.
tell everyone.
We love you.
Bye.